Is this a way of avoiding life for you in other ways? You're 48, you're a virgin, right? You've never been on a date. You don't have a job.
Okay, we've got another Richard Matheson adaptation. Last time it was The Omega Man, adapted from I Am Legend. This time it's Somewhere in Time, adapted from the novel Bid Time Return. I don't think I've ever read this one. I've read quite a bit of Richard Matheson, but I don't think I've read Bid Time Return. Quite similar to What Dreams May Come, both in terms of subject matter, in terms of themes. The titles of both novels are derived from Shakespeare. Robin Williams, who was good friends with Christopher Reeve, starred in the film adaptation of What Dreams May Come. Lots of little connections there. Anyway, Somewhere in Time is a very pleasant film. It stars Jane Seymour, Christopher Plummer, and of course the great Christopher Reeve. So much of the success of Somewhere in Time rests on the shoulders of Christopher Reeve because there is so much in this film. Our main protagonist, Richard Collier, exhibits so much questionable stalker-type behavior.
But we don't even know each other.
I know everything about you. No, please don't leave. You have no idea how far I've come to be with you.
No need to look back. He's following us.
I came back in time for you, sweetie. I came all this way for you, sweetie. Do you want to spend some time with me? But since it's done by Christopher Reeve, it all comes off as very endearing, very romantic. That sort of HR meme is very applicable here. If it was anybody else besides Christopher Reeve, the whole thing would come off a bit different, I think. The film begins when young playwright Richard Collier is premiering one of his plays. Everything seems to be going quite well, and then a strange older woman runs up to Richard and she gives him a gold pocket watch, saying to him, "Find me! Come find me, Christopher Reeve!" She says something like that. The film flashes forward 8 years and Richard Collier is now a successful playwright. He's at a time in his life and his career where he seems to have become a little jaded. He seems to have gone through a breakup. He decides to take some time off to clear his head, and he ends up staying at this old hotel. Something seems to draw him there, some mysterious force beyond his understanding. At this hotel, he sees a photo of a beautiful woman, and again it seems to call to him. He seems to fall in love with this woman through her photograph. One thing leads to another, and Richard ends up hypnotizing himself so that he can travel back through time to 1912 to meet and eventually fall in love with this mysterious woman named Elise. Now, this is a very interesting method of time travel. There's no machine involved, there's no special cave, there's no magic stone. I'm thinking of Outlander, of course, here. I think you can draw a lot of comparisons between Outlander and Somewhere in Time, and I wonder if author Diana Gabaldon was inspired by Somewhere in Time or Bid Time Farewell. In any case, the idea that you can sort of psyop yourself into traveling back through time is a very sort of interesting, very sort of novel method of time travel. Nowadays, you've got all these people who are really into lucid dreaming, who are into like creating tulpas, like imagining they can create people just by sort of concentrating. You've got all these people who like psyop themselves into thinking they're werewolves or fairy creatures or what have you.
You're 48, you're a virgin, right?
Yes.
You've never been on a date. You don't have a job. You just put on a paper dog suit and walk around town, which doesn't seem to me to be a highly productive course in life.
And so in that sense, Somewhere in Time is very sort of ahead of its time. Beyond that, the film also taps into this very sort of relatable idea of, you know, when you have a dream that you wake up from and you wish you could go back to. Maybe in your dream you're flying or you have fantastical powers. Maybe you're a billionaire. But by the end of Somewhere in Time, it really sort of taps into that relatable circumstance of, you know, gosh darn it, why did I wake up? Why did I wake up? The story presents the idea of love as something sort of metaphysical. While at first it appears that Richard Collier has just sort of fallen in love with Elise's photograph, there is a hint of something more metaphysical going on, of mystical energies pulling and connecting people. For instance, there's the watch. In the beginning, Richard Collier is given a watch. Elise is the one who gives it to Richard, but then later she doesn't recognize it. So with the watch, there's the suggestion of some sort of paradox. You know, where does the initial significance of the watch come from? It seems to exist outside of space and time, and in that sense, the watch sort of represents their love. Again, it's very sort of woo-woo, metaphysical type stuff, very similar to What Dreams May Come, in the idea that you can sort of manifest your own personal paradise. In this film, Richard Collier essentially manifests his own personal waifu. Again, he's very insistent. He shows up back in 1912 and he's just like sort of like, hey, you want to get to know me? You want to get to know me, right? We're going to get to know each other real good. But again, because it is Christopher Reeve and he's so sort of bumbling but also charming, he's got this great combination of sort of like the awkward, nerdy type character, but also kind of the very sort of classically handsome Chad character. Because it is Christopher Reeve and because he is so great and charming, he just sort of makes it all work. Somewhere in Time is a very classy film. It's very sort of aesthetically pleasant, aesthetically classy. You have this very warm, sort of washed out photography that gives you a real sense of nostalgia, that gives you a sense of looking through an old photo album. You've got this great sort of romantic music. You've got a recurring piece by Rachmaninoff, and then you've got sort of the title theme. So it's got a real sort of pleasant, classy aesthetic, the aesthetic of a nice romance novel. Again, very reminiscent of Outlander, where you've got these sort of star-crossed lovers, these two ships in the night separated by time and space. Excellent period costumes and sets. The other thing the film reminded me of was the red shoes, and that you've got that same sort of love triangle setup where Elise is torn between Christopher Reeve's character, but then on the other side you've got this older gentleman who he's trying to mold her into a great actress and feels that Richard Christopher Reeve's character is going to get in the way of that. Good stuff. The makings for classic drama. I like when towards the end when Christopher Reeve is yanked back towards the present and he's miserable and despondent and there's just sort of barrels of trash and seagulls everywhere, really sort of highlighting the contrast between the quaint classical time period and the sort of modern garbage world. It's a rare moment of cynicism, of social commentary in an otherwise very uncynical film. It's a very sincere film. That's why I keep coming back to how good Christopher Reeve is, because he's a very sincere actor. He puts across a very sincere personality, and that's the sort of thing that you really need to make a story like this work, is a real sort of earnestness and sincerity. You can't be winking in a story like this. You can't be winking and cynical and sort of drawing attention to the outlandishness of the material. You just sort of have to go for it. You have to dive right in. I think all of Matheson's stories are sort of like that, and that's why he is so distinctive. Is he is very earnest. He doesn't second guess an idea. He presents you with a premise, and then he has the characters react naturally to that premise, which seems sort of elementary when described like that, but I think where a lot of stories go wrong is they don't commit to their premise. The characters exist in some sort of postmodern exterior world where they're sort of looking down on the premise through a magnifying lens. I don't know. In any case, Somewhere in Time, just a good, pleasant film. Pretty good. Okay, let me know what you think. Subscribe if so inclined. I write books if you like books. Okay, goodbye.